Breaking basketball news, Chet Holmgren has declared for the draft, and he is a potential #1 overall pick. He was a second-team All-American in his lone season with the Zags, averaged just over 14 points, 10 rebounds, 4 blocks a game. Our Kyle Boone projects Holmgren to go #1 overall to the Houston Rockets in this year's NBA draft. We do not know who is going to get the #1 overall pick as of yet. The lottery has not yet been figured out. But as for the purposes of the order right here, we're just going by overall record with Holmgren first and Paolo Banchero #2 to the Magic. He entered himself into the NBA draft yesterday. All right, for more on Holmgren, let's bring in Matt Norlander, who was the one who did the huge profile for CBSSports.com when many of us didn't even know much about him when he was coming into college basketball over a year ago. Matt, give us a background on him, obviously, but also, I mean, is this the guy, in your opinion, that should and will be the #1 overall pick?
I will go with background first here. Yeah, Chet Holmgren had a very nice freshman season at Gonzaga. He was one of the 3 best freshmen in America. You can make the argument that Jabari Smith at Auburn or Paolo Banchero, who you just saw on that screen, might have been slightly better overall, but Holmgren has assets to his game that those guys can't claim. And yes, in that profile, I spent time with Holmgren. I went up to Gonzaga. I spoke with everyone around him in that program. And the one thing that I keep coming back to with him is Mark Few and his lead assistant, Brian Michelson, on multiple occasions. They started last summer, and then when I went to Gonzaga, they're like, this guy is different. Like, he's got a lot of natural ability, but I'm just telling you, he lives for the gym. He is obsessed with basketball. He wants to get better. He insists that we coach him like he's the 13th guy on our roster. Okay, not that he's a potential future #1 pick. So from a mentality standpoint, he carries a fairly good reputation as a teammate, going back to his time before Gonzaga, and then ingratiated himself. He's not an absolute social butterfly, but as the season went along, he really got more and more comfortable with that Gonzaga roster. So I think in terms of his commitment to the game, he's going to pass every single test that every team, every GM, scouting department that interviews him. As for if he will be #1, that's an interesting question, because if you looked at that top 10 mock draft that we got from Kyle Boone right there, I think that Holmgren can go as high as 1. And this is what I'm about to say here is my opinion combined with intel that I've received from a few different NBA evaluators. If Shaedon Sharpe winds up being eligible to be drafted this year, there's still murkiness around that. He declared, and now he's saying that he's just testing the waters. The point I'm making here is Shaedon Sharpe actually would get top 5 consideration. So here's the deal. I had someone in an NBA front office of a team that's going to be in the lottery. I'm not going to give the team. It's one of the teams you see on the screen there. Someone in the front office tell me 2 months ago, Chet Holmgren scares the heck out of me, except he didn't say heck, and wouldn't think that he would be going #1 to that particular team. But I had another team tell me, how can you not go with him? Because if he hits, he's got the highest ceiling of anyone in the class. I think that Holmgren could be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. That's probably it. If Shaedon Sharpe gets in there, maybe he falls to 5th. I just don't see that being the case. As of right now, if it was me, Chris, I don't think I would take Holmgren first. I actually think I like Jabari Smith most because I think his floor is the highest. But Holmgren has a case because his ceiling is the highest. But there's so many questions around his body type. Will he get stronger, et cetera, et cetera. He's going to be a fascinating prospect for sure.
And Matt, we knew this was going to happen. We knew Chet Holmgren was going to declare and is going to be a lottery pick. The question that Gonzaga fans and college basketball fans have is Drew Timme. And quickly, what's the latest on his potential route back to college basketball for another year?
Yeah, Drew Timme is still up in the air. My prediction, I think that Drew Timme is going to do what Oscar Tshiebwe did. He's going to decide to return to Gonzaga, to return to college basketball, and in doing so, set himself up for having one of really the better 4-year careers we've seen in the past 10 to 15 seasons in the sport. It's not definite, though. Drew Timme, if he wants to decide to go on and chase a pro career, I think there is a chance that he could be drafted. Gonzaga's chances of being a Final Four contender really rest on whether or not Timme does return next season. The reason why, just real quick on this hassle, if you're wondering, well, why is Holmgren going one and done and he's like a potential '1 pick where Timme's been awesome for a few years? The basic reason is this: Holmgren has a super high ceiling defensively. He can shoot from three. I mean, look at him. He's 7'1" and he can hit threes with reliability. Timme's way more traditional center, amazing feet, works around the rim defensively. He's got more room to go and grow. Athleticism isn't quite as there. I think that he should be drafted, but there's no sure thing that Drew Timme would have a role that would for sure guarantee him as much productivity and play time if he were to go this year. Whereas if he returned to college, he could be like Oscar Tshiebwe, being a college player, national star, and probably, if you're Drew Timme, stand to make 7 figures in NIL money, which is not insignificant.
Tshiebwe and Armando Bacot have decided to come back. We'll wait Drew Timme and see what he decides to do. But Chet Holmgren is on the way to the NBA draft, could be the #1 overall pick, and is the #1 overall pick in Kyle Boone's latest mock draft. That's Matt Norlander. You can hear him with Gary Parrish on the Eye on College Basketball podcast.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.